The stars burned bright against the endless black of space as Captain Jake Morrison stared out the window of his ship. The New Horizon was not a warship. It was not built for fighting. It was made for exploring and finding new worlds where humans could live. Jake had been traveling through space for 3 months now, mapping star systems that no human had ever seen before. The ship was quiet, except for the soft hum of the engines. Jake's crew of 12 people worked at their stations, checking sensors and recording data about the planets they found. Most of the crew had been in space for years. They knew how to handle the long trips between stars. They knew how to deal with the loneliness that came from being so far from Earth. Jake was looking at a chart when the communication system started beeping. The sound was sharp and urgent. He had never heard anything like it before. His communication. Officer, a young woman named Lisa Park, looked up from her station with wide eyes. "Captain, we are getting a signal," she said. Her voice was shaking a little. "It is not from Earth. It is not from any human ship." Jake felt his heart beat faster. In all the years humans had been traveling to other stars, they had never found any other intelligent life. Earth scientists had always wondered if there were other thinking beings out there among the stars. Now it seemed like they might have their answer. "Put it on the main speakers," Jake said. The message that came through was broken and hard to understand. The voice was not human. It made sounds that human throats could never make. But somehow, the ship's computer was able to translate most of it into English. Double quotes. Help. War. Centuries. Mediation. Any species. Please respond. The message repeated several times, then stopped. The bridge of the New Horizon was completely silent. Jake looked around at his crew. They all had the same shocked expression on their faces. "Lisa, can you find where that signal came from?" Jake asked. Lisa worked at her station for several minutes. "Yes, Captain. It came from a star system about 2 days away from here. The system has been marked as unexplored on our charts." Jake made a decision that would change everything. Set course for that system. Maximum speed. 2 days later, the New Horizon dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the star system. What they saw there made everyone on the ship gasp in horror and amazement. The space around the system's main star was filled with the wreckage of enormous ships. These were not human ships. They were bigger than anything humans had ever built. Some of them were as large as small cities. Many of them were broken in half or completely destroyed. Pieces of metal and debris floated everywhere, but not all the ships were destroyed. Jake could see that some of them were still working. These ships were firing weapons at each other. Bright beams of energy and streams of metal projectiles flew back and forth between the two groups of ships. Every few seconds, another ship would explode in a ball of fire and light. "My God," whispered Dr. Amanda Foster, the ship's science officer. "They are killing each other." Jake ordered his crew to move the New Horizon to a safe distance where they could watch but not be seen. As they got closer, they could see that there were 2 different types of ships fighting each other. One group had ships that were long and smooth, like silver arrows. The other group had ships that were dark and angular, covered in spikes and armor. The battle had been going on for hours, maybe days. Neither side seemed to be winning. Every time one group destroyed an enemy ship, they lost one of their own ships as well. It was like watching 2 giants punch each other until they both fell down. "Captain," said Lisa Park, "we are getting more signals, this time from both groups of ships." "What are they saying?" "They are both asking for help. They want someone to stop the fighting. They say the war has been going on for hundreds of years." Jake could not believe what he was hearing. A war that had lasted for centuries. Humans had fought wars that lasted for just a few years, and those wars had caused terrible suffering. He could not imagine what a war that lasted for hundreds of years would do to the people fighting it. He made another decision. Send a message to both groups. Tell them we are humans from Earth. Tell them we want to help. The responses came back quickly. Both alien groups seemed surprised to hear from a new species. They sent images of themselves so the humans could see what they looked like. The first group called themselves the Zephyrians. They looked like tall, thin people with blue skin and large eyes. Their leader was someone called High Commander Zixthala. The second group was called the Corvani Federation. They were shorter and broader than the Zephyrians, with gray skin and 4 arms. Their leader was War Marshal Korvak. Both leaders agreed to talk to the humans, but Jake could tell they did not think humans could really help them, the Zephyrians. And Corvani had been fighting for so long that they had forgotten there could be any other way to solve their problems. Jake sent a message back to Earth, telling them what he had found. The message would take weeks to reach Earth, and the reply would take just as long to come back. But Jake knew that the leaders on Earth needed to know about this war and about the alien species that were fighting it. While they waited, Jake and his crew watched the battle continue. They saw more ships destroyed. They saw entire sections of space stations blown apart. They began to understand that this was not just a small fight between two groups. This was a war that involved millions of people and had destroyed entire worlds. Dr. Foster studied the weapons and ships of both sides. She noticed something strange. "Captain, I think I know why this war has lasted so long," she said. "Look at how they fight." Jake watched the battle more carefully. He began to see what Dr. Foster meant. Every time the Zephyrians fired their energy weapons at the Corvani ships seemed to absorb the energy and use it to make their own weapons stronger. Every time the Corvani fired their projectile weapons at the Zephyrian ships, the Zephyrian ships used some kind of shield to deflect the projectiles back at the Corvani. They have developed weapons and defenses that perfectly counter each other, Dr. Foster explained. Neither side can gain an advantage because they have been fighting each other for so long that they know exactly how to defend against each other's attacks. Jake realized that this was not just a war. It was a stalemate. Both sides were trapped in a fight that neither could win, but neither could afford to lose. They had been fighting for so long that they had forgotten why they started fighting. In the first place, that night, as Jake lay in his bed trying to sleep, he thought about what he had seen. 2 advanced alien civilizations, far more advanced than humans, were destroying themselves in a pointless war. They had asked for help from any species that could hear them. They were desperate, but what could humans do? Human ships were tiny compared to the alien warships. Human weapons were primitive compared to the energy beams and projectile systems the aliens used. Humans had only been traveling between stars for 15 years. These aliens had been fighting in space for centuries. Still, Jake felt that he had to try. The next morning, he sent another message to both alien leaders. He told them that humans wanted to help end the war. He asked them to stop fighting long enough to listen to what humans had to say. The alien leaders agreed to meet with the humans. But Jake could tell from their messages that they did not really believe humans could help them. They seemed to think of humans as children who did not understand the complexity of their ancient conflict. Jake did not know it yet. But he and his small crew were about to change the course of galactic history. Sometimes the best solutions come from those who see a problem with fresh eyes. 3 days after first contact with the alien species, Captain Jake Morrison received an urgent message from Earth. The message had traveled across many light years of space to reach him. It was from Commander Lisa Bennett, who was in charge of all human space exploration activities. "Captain Morrison," the message began, "Earth's government has decided to send a diplomatic mission to your location. Admiral Ryan Hayes will arrive in 2 weeks with a small fleet. Until then, you are to observe and learn as much as possible about both alien species. Do not take any actions that might make the situation worse. Good luck. Jake gathered his crew in the main meeting room of the New Horizon. Dr. Amanda Foster had been working day and night to understand the alien technologies. Lieutenant Colonel Steve Carter, who had joined the mission as a military advisor, had been studying the way both sides fought their battles. What have we learned so far? Jake asked. Dr. Foster stood up and activated the room's main display screen. Images of the alien ships appeared, showing their weapons and defensive systems. The Zephyrians use plasma-based weapons, she explained. These weapons fire superheated gas that can melt through most materials. But the Corvani have developed armor that can absorb this plasma energy and convert it into power for their own weapons. She switched to show the Corvani ships. The Corvani use kinetic weapons. They fire metal projectiles at very high speeds. These projectiles can punch through most armor. But the Zephyrians have energy shields that can deflect or destroy these projectiles before they hit their ships. Lieutenant Colonel Carter nodded. It is like watching two people fight with a sword and a shield. Each person has the perfect defense. Against the other person's weapon, neither can win. Jake studied the images on the screen. How long has this been going on? According to the messages we have received from both sides, this war started over 300 years ago, Dr. Foster said. It began as a dispute over mining rights in some distant star system, but it has grown into something much bigger. Lisa Park, who had been monitoring communications from both fleets, spoke up. Captain, I have been listening to their military communications. Both sides are running out of resources. Their home worlds are struggling to build new ships and weapons. Many of their people are hungry because so much food and materials are being used for the war. Jake felt sad as he listened to this. War was always terrible for the people caught in it. But a war that lasted for centuries would destroy entire civilizations. What are they fighting for now? He asked. That is the strange part, said Dr. Foster. I have been studying their historical records. Neither side can really explain why they are still fighting. The original mining dispute was resolved decades ago, but the war has continued because neither side wants to admit defeat. Lieutenant Colonel Carter pulled up tactical displays of recent battles. I have been analyzing their combat strategies. Both sides fight in very predictable patterns. The Zephyrians always arrange their ships in perfect geometric formations. They believe this makes them look more advanced and civilized. The Corvani always attack in straight lines, using overwhelming force. These patterns make sense if you have been fighting the same enemy for hundreds of years, Jake said. You develop strategies that work against that specific enemy. Exactly, Carter agreed. But it also means they have become very rigid in their thinking. They only know how to fight each other. They might not know how to fight against someone who uses different tactics. Over the next few days, Jake and his crew continued to observe the ongoing battles. They watched as both sides lost more ships and more lives. The fighting seemed endless and pointless. Dr. Foster made an important discovery while examining wreckage from destroyed ships. She used the New Horizons tractor beam to pull in pieces of both Zephyrian and Corvani vessels. Her analysis revealed something surprising about their technology. Captain, both species have incredibly advanced technology, she reported. In many ways, they are hundreds of years ahead of us, but their technology is very specialized. Everything they have built is designed specifically to fight against their enemy. She showed Jake a piece of Zephyrian armor. This armor is perfect for stopping Corvani kinetic weapons, but it would be much less effective against other types of attacks. The same is true for their weapons and shields. Jake began to understand. They have been fighting each other for so long that they have forgotten how to fight against anyone else. Yes, Dr. Foster agreed. It is like they have been playing the same game for so long that they have forgotten there are other ways to play. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Colonel Carter had been studying human military history. He had access to records of every major battle that humans had ever fought. Earth's military leaders had sent him detailed information about human weapons and tactics. "Captain, I think I see something important," Carter said during one of their daily meetings. "Humans have fought many different types of wars against many different enemies. We have had to adapt our tactics to face new challenges. We have never had the luxury of fighting the same enemy for hundreds of years." Jake thought about this. Human history was full of wars, but they had always been against different enemies with different weapons and tactics. Humans had learned to be flexible and creative in their fighting methods. "What does this mean for us?" Jake asked. "It means that humans might be able to see solutions that these aliens cannot see," Carter explained. "They have been staring at the same problem for so long that they have gone blind to other possibilities." As the days passed, Jake began to understand the true nature of the conflict. Both the Zephyrians and Corvani were trapped in a cycle of violence that neither could break. They had invested so much in the war that they could not imagine life without it. High, Commander Zixthala of the Zephyrians sent several messages to Jake, trying to explain their position. "The Corvani are savage warmongers," one message said. "They started this conflict with their greed and violence. We cannot make peace with such creatures." War Marshal Korvac of the Corvani sent similar messages, but from the opposite perspective. "The Zephyrians think they are better than everyone else," he wrote. "They believe they have the right to control the galaxy. We fight to preserve freedom for all species." Jake noticed that both sides said similar things about each other. Both believed they were fighting for good reasons. Both believed the other side was evil and could not be trusted. After 300 years of war, both sides had convinced themselves that peace was impossible. But Jake also noticed something else. Both sides were tired. Their messages showed frustration and sadness. Many of their people wanted the war to end, but their leaders did not know how to stop fighting without losing face. Dr. Foster continued her analysis of the alien technologies. She discovered that both sides had made their weapons and defenses so effective against each other that they had created a perfect balance. Neither side could gain an advantage no matter how hard they tried. "It is like they are both pushing against a wall," she explained to Jake. "The harder they push, the more the wall pushes back. They are stuck." Jake realized that this was humanity's opportunity. Humans were not part of this ancient conflict. They had no history with either side. They could see the situation clearly because they were not emotionally involved. "We need to wait for Admiral Hayes to arrive," Jake told his crew. "But when he gets here, I think we should offer to help both sides find a way out of this war." Lieutenant Colonel Carter looked skeptical. "Captain, these are advanced alien civilizations with weapons that could destroy our entire fleet in minutes. What makes you think they will listen to us?" Jake looked out at the battlefield where alien ships continued to destroy each other. "Because they are desperate," he said. "They have tried everything else. Sometimes the best help comes from someone who can see the problem with fresh eyes." 2 weeks later, Admiral Hayes arrived with a small fleet of human ships. The real work of ending a 300-year war was about to begin. Admiral Ryan Hayes arrived at the battle zone with 3 human ships. His flagship was called the Defender of Earth, and it was the largest ship humans had ever built for space travel. But compared to the alien warships, it looked like a small boat next to giant ocean liners. Captain Jake Morrison met with Admiral Hayes aboard the Defender of Earth. The Admiral was a tall man with gray hair and serious eyes. He had spent his whole life in the military, and had helped plan Earth's first missions to other star systems. "Captain Morrison, you have done excellent work here," Admiral Hayes said as they sat in his private office. "Earth's leaders are very interested in what you have discovered, but they are also worried. These alien species have weapons that could destroy all of humanity if we make them angry." Jake nodded. He understood the risk. "Admiral, I believe these aliens are not our enemies. They are just tired of fighting each other. They need someone to help them find a way to stop." Admiral Hayes looked at the reports Dr. Foster and Lieutenant Colonel Carter had prepared. "Your team thinks that human military tactics could be effective against both alien species?" "Not for fighting them," Jake said quickly. "For showing them that their war cannot be won. If we can prove that their stalemate is permanent, maybe they will be willing to talk about peace." The Admiral was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke. "I will contact both alien leaders and request a meeting. But I want you to understand something, Captain. If this goes wrong, if we make these aliens angry, they could follow our ships back to Earth. We could be putting our entire species in danger." Jake felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders, but he also felt that this was the right thing to do. "Admiral, sometimes you have to take risks to do what is right." The next day, Admiral Hayes sent messages to both High Commander Zixthala and War Marshal Korvac. He requested a joint meeting where all three sides could talk together. The response from both aliens was immediate and negative. "We will not meet with the savage Corvani in the same room," High Commander Zixthala replied. "They cannot be trusted. They will use any meeting as an opportunity to plan attacks against us." War Marshal Korvac's response was similar. "The arrogant Zephyrians think they are too good to speak with us as equals. There is no point in meeting with them." Admiral Hayes was not surprised by these responses. He had expected both sides to be suspicious and angry after centuries of war. But he had a plan. "We will meet with each side separately," he told Jake. "We will listen to their stories and try to understand their positions. Then we will see if we can find common ground." The first meeting was with High Commander Zixthala aboard his flagship, a beautiful silver ship called the Light of Zephyr. The Zephyrian leader was tall and thin, with blue skin that seemed to glow in the ship's lighting. His large eyes were intelligent, but also showed deep sadness. "Welcome to my ship, Admiral Hayes," the High Commander said in perfect English. The Zephyrians had learned human language quickly. "I am curious about your species. You seem very young to be traveling between the stars." Admiral Hayes was polite but direct. "High Commander, we are young compared to your people. But sometimes young eyes can see things that old eyes have missed." High Commander Zixthala showed the humans around. His ship, the technology was incredible. Everything was smooth and elegant, like artwork that could also function as a weapon. But Jake noticed that everything on the ship was designed for fighting Corvani. The weapons, the shields, even the shape of the ship itself was built specifically to counter Corvani tactics. During their conversation, the High Commander explained the Zephyrian point of view. "The Corvani are a violent species," he said. "They believe that might makes right. They started this war by attacking our mining colonies without warning. We have been defending ourselves ever since." Dr. Foster asked careful questions about Zephyrian history and technology. She learned that the Zephyrians valued art, science, and philosophy. They saw themselves as the civilized species in the galaxy. But the war had forced them to become something they did not want to be. "We used to be explorers and scientists," High Commander Zixthala said sadly. "Now our children grow up knowing only war. Our artists create weapons instead of beauty. Our scientists study destruction instead of creation." The next day, the humans met with War Marshal Korvac aboard his ship, the Iron Fist. The Corvani ship was very different from the Zephyrian vessel. It was dark and angular, covered in armor and weapons. Everything looked strong and practical. War Marshal Korvac was shorter than the High Commander, but much broader. His gray skin was scarred from old battles, and his forearms moved constantly. As he spoke, his voice was deep and rough. "So you are the humans," he said, studying Admiral Hayes carefully. "You do not look like much, but I have heard that small creatures can sometimes be dangerous." The War Marshal told a very different story about the war's beginning. "The Zephyrians think they own the galaxy," he explained. "They came to our territory and told us we could not mine our own asteroids. When we refused to obey them, they attacked us." Jake realized that both sides had completely different versions of how the war started. After 300 years, the truth had been lost in propaganda and hatred. War Marshal Korvac showed them around his ship. Like the Zephyrian vessel, everything was designed to fight a specific enemy. The Corvani weapons were built to penetrate Zephyrian shields. Their armor was designed to absorb Zephyrian plasma attacks. "We are not the savage monsters the Zephyrians claim we are," the War Marshal said. "We fight for freedom. We fight so that no species will have to bow down to Zephyrian arrogance." Lieutenant Colonel Carter asked about Corvani military tactics. He learned that the Corvani valued courage, loyalty, and strength. They believed that warriors should face their enemies directly and honestly. After meeting with both sides, Admiral Hayes called his staff together for a planning session. The humans had learned a lot, but they still faced a huge challenge. "Both sides believe they are right," Dr. Foster reported. "Both sides believe the other side started the war. Both sides have convinced themselves that peace is impossible. But both sides are also suffering," Jake added. "Their people are tired of war. Their economies are collapsing. They want peace, but they do not know how to achieve it without losing face." Admiral Hayes made a decision that would shock both alien species. "We are going to make them an offer they cannot refuse," he said. "We are going to propose a demonstration." The Admiral's plan was bold and dangerous. He would challenge both alien fleets to a combat demonstration. A single human ship would face a combined force of Zephyrian and Corvani vessels. If the human ship could win, both sides would have to admit that their military superiority was not as complete as they thought. "Admiral, that is suicide," Lieutenant Colonel Carter said. "Our ships are no match for their technology." "Our ships do not need to be more advanced," Admiral Hayes replied. "They just need to be different." Dr. Foster's analysis shows that both alien species have become so focused on fighting each other that they have forgotten how to fight anyone else. Jake understood what the Admiral was thinking. "You want to use their rigid thinking against them." "Exactly," Admiral Hayes said. "They have been playing the same game for so long that they have forgotten there are other ways to play." The Admiral sent a message to both alien leaders. The message was simple and direct. "Humanity offers to demonstrate a solution to your military stalemate. One human ship will engage a combined force from both your fleets. If we succeed in defeating your ships, you will agree to peace negotiations. If we fail, we will leave this sector and never return." The response from both sides was immediate laughter. High Commander Zixthala replied, "Your small ships are no match for our technology. This demonstration will only prove human foolishness." War Marshal Korvac's response was similar. "Humans are brave but stupid. We will show you the power of real warriors." But both alien leaders agreed to the demonstration. They were curious to see what the humans thought they could accomplish. They were also confident that their superiority would be proven quickly and decisively. Admiral Hayes had 7 days to prepare for the most important battle in human history. The survival of the peace process depended on proving that human ingenuity could overcome alien technology. The human fleet worked day and night to prepare for the demonstration. Admiral Hayes had chosen the destroyer Liberty's Edge to face the combined alien forces. The ship was commanded by Captain Gary Thompson, a skilled pilot who had served in Earth's Space Navy for 15 years. Captain Thompson was a calm man who never got excited, even in dangerous situations. His crew trusted him completely because he always found ways to solve problems that seemed impossible. But even Thompson felt nervous about this mission. "Admiral, my ship is good, but it is not magic," Thompson said during a planning meeting. "Those alien ships have weapons that can destroy planets. How are we supposed to fight them?" Admiral Hayes smiled. "Captain, we are not going to fight them the way they expect. We are going to fight them the way humans fight. We are going to be unpredictable." Dr. Foster had been studying the alien weapons and defenses for weeks. She had discovered something important about how both species designed their technology. The Zephyrians and Corvani have been fighting each other for so long that they have forgotten about other types of weapons. She explained to the assembled crew. She showed them diagrams of both alien ship designs. Look at their shield systems. The Zephyrian energy shields are perfect for stopping Corvani kinetic weapons, but they are designed for projectiles that travel at very high speeds. They are not as effective against projectiles that travel at medium speeds. Lieutenant Colonel Carter nodded. The same is true for Corvani armor. It absorbs energy from Zephyrian plasma weapons, but it is designed for energy weapons that pulse in specific patterns. It might not handle energy weapons that pulse randomly. Chief Engineer Patricia Cole had been working with her team to modify the Liberty's Edge. She was a small woman with quick hands and a brilliant mind for mechanics. She could fix anything and often improved machines while she repaired them. "We have installed new weapon systems on the Liberty's Edge," Cole reported. "Rail guns that fire tungsten projectiles at medium velocity, missile systems with random flight patterns, and electronic warfare equipment that can jam enemy communications." The rail guns were Patricia's proudest achievement. Unlike the high-speed kinetic weapons the Corvani used, these guns fired their projectiles at speeds that neither alien species had planned to defend against. The tungsten projectiles were dense and hard, capable of punching through most types of armor. Major Kevin Walsh, the fleet's strategic planning officer, had been studying every battle between the Zephyrians and Corvani for the past 300 years. He was looking for patterns in how both sides fought their wars. "Both species fight in very predictable ways," Walsh explained. "The Zephyrians always arrange their ships in geometric patterns. They think it makes them look more civilized and advanced. The Corvani always attack in straight lines because they believe direct assault shows courage. Captain Thompson studied the tactical plans, so we need to do something they do not expect." "Exactly," Walsh agreed. "We need to move in ways that confuse their targeting systems. We need to attack from directions they are not prepared for. We need to make them think we are doing one thing while we are actually doing something else." Dr. Foster had been working with Earth psychologists to understand how both alien species made decisions in battle. She had discovered that the Zephyrians always tried to maintain perfect formations, even when it put them at a disadvantage. The Corvani always focused their attacks on the strongest enemy ship, believing that defeating the leader would demoralize the enemy. "We can use their psychology against them," Foster explained. "If we can make the Zephyrians break their formation, they will become confused and disorganized. If we can make the Corvani spread out their attacks instead of concentrating them, they will be less effective." The human engineers worked around the clock to prepare the Liberty's Edge for battle. They installed new armor that was lighter but stronger than the original plating. They upgraded the ship's engines to make it faster and more maneuverable. They added extra power generators to run all the new systems. Captain Morrison visited the Liberty's Edge to see the preparations. He was amazed by what Patricia Cole and her team had accomplished. The ship looked almost the same from the outside, but inside it was completely different. "We have tripled the ship's electronic warfare capabilities," Cole explained as she showed Morrison around. "We can jam enemy sensors, disrupt their communications, and even make their own weapons target the wrong ships." The ship's communication officer, Lieutenant Sarah Brooks, had been working with specialists from Earth to develop new jamming techniques. She was young but very smart, and she understood alien communication systems better than anyone else in the fleet. Zephyrians and Corvani use very sophisticated communication networks to coordinate their attacks, Brooks explained. But their systems are designed to resist jamming from each other. They are not designed to resist jamming from completely different technology. The most important part of the preparation was training the crew. Captain Thompson and his team had to learn how to use all the new weapons and systems. They had to practice moving in patterns that would confuse the alien ships. They had to learn how to fight in a way that no human had ever fought before. The training sessions were intense. The crew practiced for 12 hours every day, running simulations of the upcoming battle. They practiced until every movement was automatic, until they could operate their systems without thinking about it. Admiral Hayes watched one of the training sessions. He was impressed by how quickly the crew had adapted to their new equipment, but he was also worried. The demonstration would be watched by both alien fleets. If the humans failed, it would be a disaster for Earth's reputation in the galaxy. "Captain Thompson, are you ready for this?" Hayes asked. Thompson looked at his crew, who were still practicing at their stations. "Admiral, we are as ready as we can be. But I want you to know that this is the most dangerous mission any human has ever attempted." Hayes nodded. "I understand the risk, Captain. But if we succeed, we might be able to end a war that has lasted for 3 centuries. Dr. Foster made one final discovery that changed their entire strategy. While studying recordings of alien battles, she noticed that both species had a weakness in their tactical thinking. They were so focused on their enemy's main weapons that they ignored smaller threats. "The Zephyrians concentrate all their defenses against kinetic weapons," she reported. "They barely notice energy weapons that are weaker than Corvani plasma cannons. The Corvani focus all their attention on energy weapons. They ignore kinetic weapons that are smaller than Zephyrian particle beams." This gave Captain Thompson an idea. "What if we attack with both types of weapons at the same time? Small energy weapons and medium kinetic weapons. Neither side will defend properly against both." Lieutenant Colonel Carter ran computer simulations of this strategy. The results were encouraging. "If we can coordinate our attacks properly, we can overwhelm both types of defenses simultaneously." The night before the demonstration, Admiral Hayes called all the senior officers together for a final meeting. The room was quiet as everyone thought about what would happen the next day. "Tomorrow, we will make history," Hayes said. "We will either prove that humans deserve a place among the galaxy's great civilizations, or we will learn that we are not yet ready for that responsibility." Captain Morrison looked around the room at his fellow officers. Dr. Foster, who had worked so hard to understand alien technology. Lieutenant Colonel Carter, who had studied every aspect of the alien war. Patricia Cole, who had rebuilt the Liberties Edge into something new and powerful. All of them had contributed to this moment. "Whatever happens tomorrow," Morrison said, "we can be proud that we tried to do something good. We tried to bring peace to a galaxy that has known only war." The demonstration was scheduled to begin at 0800 hours, Galactic Standard Time. Captain Thompson and his crew would face 12 alien warships in a battle that would determine the future of 3 civilizations. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. The morning of the demonstration arrived with no fanfare. In the cold darkness of space, there was no sunrise to mark the beginning of this historic day. Captain Gary Thompson sat in the command chair of the Liberty's Edge, watching his crew make final preparations for the battle that would change everything. Around them, both alien fleets had positioned themselves to watch the upcoming fight. Hundreds of Zephyrian and Corvani ships floated at a safe distance, their crews eager to see the humans humiliated. Many alien officers had placed bets on how quickly the human ship would be destroyed. Admiral Hayes spoke to Captain Thompson over the communication system. "Captain, the rules are simple. You will face 6 Zephyrian light cruisers and 6 Corvani destroyers. The battle will end when either your ship is disabled or all 12 enemy ships are disabled. Are you ready?" Thompson looked around his bridge. Lieutenant Sarah Brooks sat at the communication station, her hands steady on the controls that would jam enemy signals. Chief Engineer Patricia Cole monitored the new weapon systems from the engineering deck. The rest of his crew sat quietly at their stations, waiting for the order to begin. "We are ready, Admiral," Thompson replied. High Commander Zixthala and War Marshal Korvac watched from their command ships. Both alien leaders expected the demonstration to be over quickly. They had agreed to this contest mainly to humor the humans and prove their own superiority. "Begin the demonstration," Admiral Hayes announced. The 12 alien ships moved into position. The 6 Zephyrian cruisers arranged themselves in a perfect hexagonal pattern, just as they always did. The 6 Corvani destroyers formed a straight line, preparing for a direct frontal assault. Both formations were exactly what the humans had expected. Captain Thompson smiled. "Sarah, activate all jamming systems. Patricia, power up the rail guns. Everyone else, hold on tight. We are going to give them a fight they will never forget." The first phase of the human strategy began immediately. Lieutenant Brooks activated the electronic warfare systems that Patricia Cole had installed. Powerful jamming signals flooded the space around the alien ships, disrupting their communications and sensor networks. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The Zephyrians had never encountered jamming technology like this. Their sophisticated communication network, which allowed them to coordinate their perfect formations, suddenly stopped working. Ships that had been moving in perfect harmony began to drift apart as their commanders lost contact with each other. The Corvani were equally confused. Their targeting systems, designed to track Zephyrian energy signatures, could not lock onto the human ship. The Liberty's Edge appeared and disappeared from their sensors like a ghost. "Phase 1 complete," Thompson announced to his crew. "The enemy formations are breaking apart, beginning Phase 2. The Liberty's Edge began to move in patterns that made no sense to the alien commanders. The ship accelerated in one direction, then suddenly changed course and flew in a completely different direction. It spun and twisted through space like a dancer, never staying in one place long enough for the aliens to target it effectively. This erratic movement was not random. Major Walsh had calculated every turn and acceleration based on mathematical patterns that would confuse alien targeting. Computers. The ship's movements looked chaotic, but they followed precise formulas designed to make prediction impossible. The Zephyrian ships tried to reform their hexagonal pattern, but without communication, they could not coordinate their movements. Some ships moved left, while others moved right. Their perfect formation collapsed into chaos. The Corvani ships maintained their straight-line attack, but they could not target the rapidly moving human vessel. Their heavy weapons, designed to punch through Zephyrian shields, fired again and again, but hit only empty space. "Phase 2 complete," Thompson announced. "Enemy targeting is disrupted. Beginning Phase 3. The decisive phase of the battle began when Patricia Cole activated the Liberty's Edge's new weapon systems. The railguns fired tungsten projectiles at precisely the velocity that Dr. Foster had calculated would be most effective against both alien defense systems. The Zephyrian plasma shields, designed to stop high-velocity kinetic weapons, were not configured for medium-velocity projectiles. The tungsten rounds passed through the shields like they were made of paper. The projectiles struck the Zephyrian ships with devastating effect, punching holes in their hulls and disabling their weapon systems. At the same time, the ship's missile systems launched a coordinated attack against the Corvani destroyers. But these were not ordinary missiles. Each missile followed a different flight path, changing direction randomly as it flew toward its target. The Corvani point defense systems, designed to intercept predictable Zephyrian energy weapons, could not track the erratically moving missiles. The missiles struck the Corvani ships with explosive force. The adaptive armor that had protected them from Zephyrian plasma weapons was not designed to handle the type of explosive energy these missiles delivered. Hull plates buckled and weapon systems went offline. Within 4 minutes of the battle's start, half of the alien ships had been disabled. The remaining 6 ships tried desperately to adapt to the human tactics, but they were fighting in a way they had never encountered before. The Zephyrian ships attempted to break their traditional formation and fight individually. But 3 centuries of training in group tactics had made them incapable of effective solo combat. Without their coordinated formations, they were like dancers trying to perform without music. The Corvani ships tried to spread out and attack from multiple directions, but their weapons and tactics were designed for frontal assault. When they tried to attack from the sides, their own systems worked against them. Captain Thompson watched the battle unfold exactly as the human team had planned. Sarah, target the command ships with focused jamming. Patricia, concentrate railgun fire on the remaining Zephyrian vessels. The Liberty's Edge continued its deadly dance through space. The ship moved like a boxer, darting in to strike and then moving away before the enemy could respond. Every movement was calculated to take advantage of the aliens' rigid thinking. By the 6th minute, only 3 alien ships remained functional. These ships tried to coordinate a final attack, but their communication systems were still jammed, and their weapons could not lock onto the human vessel. The final phase of the battle was almost anticlimactic. The remaining alien ships, desperate and confused, made tactical errors that sealed their fate. One Zephyrian cruiser flew directly into the path of a Corvani destroyer, and both ships collided in a shower of sparks and debris. The last Corvani ship tried to ram the Liberty's Edge, but missed completely when Thompson executed a perfectly timed evasive maneuver. The final alien ship, a Zephyrian cruiser, surrendered rather than face destruction. Its captain, speaking in broken English, transmitted a message of defeat. "Human ship, we yield. You have won." Captain Thompson looked at the chronometer on his command console. The entire battle had lasted exactly 8 minutes and 43 seconds. 12 advanced alien warships had been defeated by a single human destroyer using tactics they had never seen before. The space around the battlefield was completely silent. Hundreds of alien ships watched in stunned amazement as the Liberty's Edge floated victorious among the debris of the defeated fleet. No one had expected this outcome. No one had believed it was possible. Admiral Hayes broke the silence. "High Commander Zixthala, War Marshal Korvac, the demonstration is complete. As agreed, both of your governments will now enter into peace negotiations with humanity serving as mediator." The response from both alien leaders was immediate, but very different from their earlier arrogance. High Commander Zixthala's voice was filled with amazement. "How did you do that? Your ship is so small, your weapons so primitive. How did you defeat our most advanced warships?" War Marshal Korvac's response was more direct. "You fought like no one we have ever faced. You fought without honor, without pattern, without sense. And you won. Captain Thompson activated his communication system to address both alien fleets. We did not fight without honor. We fought with different honor. We did not fight without pattern. We fought with patterns you had never seen. We did not fight without sense. We fought with the sense of a species that learned to adapt or die. Dr. Foster, monitoring from the New Horizon, transmitted her analysis to both alien commanders. Your civilizations have fought each other for so long that you forgot there were other ways to fight. You became so specialized that you lost your flexibility. Humans have faced many different enemies, so we learned to change our tactics to meet new challenges. The immediate aftermath of the demonstration was chaos. Both alien fleets were trying to understand how they had been so thoroughly defeated. Military commanders demanded explanations. Scientists wanted to study human technology. Politicians began calculating the implications of this new balance of power. But High Commander Zixthala and War Marshal Korvac both honored their agreement. They agreed to begin peace negotiations immediately, with humanity serving as the neutral mediator. The war that had lasted for 3 centuries would finally come to an end. Captain Thompson sat back in his command chair and smiled.